On this little demo, we're going to explore a few different ways for typing on a path to get hopefully pretty creative. So to begin with, I'm going to start with a focal point and just type out the word emphasis. And I notice it's in white, so I'm going to go back to default and emphasis. So that's going to be my focal point. And I think what I'm going to do is take it and rotate it and put it down here in the bottom third. And then I think I want to explore making it a bit lighter in value by going to the color picker. And I want to keep it monochromatic. So this is like maybe a tinge of red with some gray. And then my idea is to have flow sort of curving through. But I want to explore different ways of typing on a path with the term flow. So I can play up the idea of visual flow or informational flow. So one way to do it is to go to the freeform pen tool. So where's the freeform pen tool? It's over here in the toolbox, and you have to go all the way down the ladder, and you'll come to this tool, and hopefully you'll see at first, as default in a default mode, it's the pen tool, P. It's about 3/4 down, a quarter up from the bottom. So we're going to go to the freeform pen tool, and then from there you want to make sure you're on path. So go up top to the options bar, and you're going to see PS, File, Edit. And right below Edit, there's going to be a little arrow that you click down on, and you'll have an option for pixels, path, and shape. In this situation, we're going to work with a path. So we're going to take the pen tool within the path mode and actually make a path. And then once we've created that path, we're going to go back to the T for type, click on the horizontal type tool, and then go over, and you'll notice what happens. There's a few things that happen right here. When I do that and actually go back to the T for type, and then even go back to my move tool, so I can go to the move tool and then go back and forth just to make sure it's set. You'll notice here over on the layers palette that a layer is automatically created. So it says T, it's a type layer, and it says layer 1. So what will happen when we go over to the path that we've created, and you look real carefully, you're going to see these two little curved lines, they're sort of like curvilinear arms, coming out of the sides of your cursor. So if I click, I'm going to see the little cursor clicking on the path. So right now it's in 12.85 points. I'm going to pick that up in point size up to 48 and just go flow. I want to type visual flow, 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 flow. And then from there, I'm going to click the move tool. And once I do that, if you notice on the top layer that I just created, it becomes named flow, flow, flow. So I can, right now it's a type layer, so I could double click, I could change the value of it, change the color of it. If I wanted to make it red, I could make it red. But since we're working in monochromatic, I can't work with bright red. I'm going to work with something a little bit more subdued, something toned. So maybe something within this gray range right here for now. And then maybe we'll switch it later on. So that's one way to create type on a path. And then I can move that anywhere I want. So here's a case where I want to have a little bit of contrast. One of our other terms is the term contrast. And let me just type that out so we can see it in black and white. Contrast. And I'm going to make that jet black. and put contrast up here near the top third for now. So what I want to have is some contrast between flow and emphasis. So I'm going to make flow black. So now we have this element right here. So that's one way to create flow. Put flow on a path using the free form pen tool. Another way to do it is actually to go to the pen tool itself. Now with the pen tool example, I want to make sure I'm on path again, and I can click and then click again and create more of a angular type path. And the path that I create could actually take on the form of some sort of irregular shape if I chose it to do that. So just as a quick example, I'm going to go over to here and click. See, I can go right around that shape that I've just done using the pen tool. But we want to be a little bit more creative, and instead of making something that random, perhaps we'll do something a little bit more dynamic. So use the pen tool and just explore the idea of making maybe just a clean triangular shape that we can take. So what I can do in this case, I can go to the shape, type in flow, then I could take flow and highlight it, and then go to copy, and then I could go click back on the path and go to paste, paste, or Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, and I'm on a PC right now, Control V, and just keep pasting it like that until I get all the way around to the first word, or the beginning, to close the shape. And then from there, I could highlight it and bring it down in value if I wanted to. Maybe make it real light. See? Or maybe I could take flow and bring it down in opacity in this case. So it becomes this like secondary design element that sits in the back. So that's another way to create a path and type on a path. Now let's see, another way, there's many ways to do this. Another way would be to come over to, well actually let's leave this the way it is for now, and I'll come back into a more advanced technique in a bit. But just for a review on another concept, I can take the flow that I created down here, hold down the Alt key, repeat it, grab the whole area, delete it, or go to my history palette and go back, retrack my moves. Grab the two, make sure I'm on Show Transform Tool, which is up top along the options bar. We have Type and Select. So if we have the Show Transform tool, we can take those two elements all at one time and rotate them. We could maybe use them and crop them off. See how I'm taking the flow, the repeated flows, and running them off? Because eventually with these little units, these little building blocks, we're going to have to create a design. So as I demonstrate these techniques, I'm sort of like introducing subtle design possibilities, strategies for playing with elements. So here we have this contrast. I could rotate that, align that with maybe the flow up here, crop part of it off. So hopefully this little tutorial gives you a little bit better of a sense how to type on a path. Advanced technique for typing on a path. Let's do this. Let's go to flow, click on that. So I have auto select clicked on up here. And so I'm going to turn off a few of these layers. Let's see, I'm going to grab all of that and then turn off all these eyeballs. Click on these eyeballs to make things disappear. And maybe put contrast up here for now. So another option for creating, typing out a path is to go to the polygon shapes. We have like the custom shape tool, the polygon tool, the ellipse tool. Let's start with the ellipse because a circle is such a beautiful shape. I can hold down my shift key and I can pull out a shape like that. But we don't want to pull out a shape. We want to pull out a path. So let me throw that into the garbage and try this once again. Go up top to the options bar, click on path, hold down my shift key to constrain the circle. Now we have a path. So at this point, I can go back to T for type, horizontal type tool, and down here on the foreground, background color, I'm going to click up at 11 o'clock. You have those little bitty black and white squares above the larger foreground and background squares. I'm going to click on the little ones, and that'll bring me back to default, which has black in the front and white in the back. And then go to here. So the crosshairs are cutting through my vector path. Click, and there we go. Flow. Flow. So I can repeat flow, create visual flow. Maybe copy, space, paste. And maybe we can do something a little bit creative. I'll do, let's see. Control V, let's see, edit, paste, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. So we go all the way to the beginning, basically. And then maybe we can play around with a little bit of variation. So instead of like all black, we could do some sort of, suggest some sort of like interval with color. So black contrasted with something more toned, like that. So once we have that, see how it's called flow, flow, flow? What I may do is go up where it says flow, 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 double click on that layer, the name of the layer, and call it circle, just so we know which flow we're talking about. So once you have that on the path, then you could hold down your shift key and bring that down and scale, and we can play with the idea of overlapping it, having it go behind emphasis, the flow. But obviously right now there's no contrast. Right now contrast is the focal point. So what I want to do is click on contrast and maybe bring that down in value so there's less emphasis on it, and then go back to my emphasis layer. See, I have my auto select clicked, double click, and maybe bring that up in value, bring that down in value a little bit darker, maybe right about here. So there's red in it. Okay, now yeah, there's more focus placed on that now. And then we could play around with the organization of the layers, put emphasis on top, and maybe right over here near this left third, right there. So that's the circle. Let me make it smaller, just so I can demonstrate one more concept. Get this out of the way so we have some open space. So you have the rectangle tool. You could do the same thing with the rectangle tool. You could type on a rounded rectangle tool. You could do the polygon, the line. And then there's what's called the shape, which is really presents a lot of possibilities. Let's just explore like the idea of a heart. So we have a heart, an actual free-form shape, and then if I pull it out like that, I have a heart that's in the that has become a path. So I can go to T for type, and once again we can do flow going around this way. So notice I'm putting flow on these like real curvilinear type shapes. Obviously we could do the same thing with repetition too. I think placing repetition into this sort of type on a path scenario could be an interesting strategy too in the end. So we have that. Now that point size is a little bit too large. Can't really read it. Click that. Bring this down in point size. Now it's tiny, tiny, tiny. Let's go a little bit larger, just so we can see what's going on. Yeah, right about there for now. So this is kind of cool. I didn't go all the way around, so it becomes like a half of a heart. Let's see if I click it and then go to copy, paste, and I can go all the way up. So that's a neat possibility. So I've got flow. Listen to this. So we have flow. It's flowing. Now, what if I were to take this and bring this down in opacity to right about there, and then repeat it, make it smaller, and put it inside like that. We could do that with repetition. We could actually bundle repetition and flow together. Hold down my Alt key. Well, first we got to go to apply, because we did a transform. Bring it down. So it becomes an interesting pictograph. Now I have all these layers. I could group them, turn them, increase them in scale, and maybe crop them off somehow. So there's all sorts of creative possibilities. So just explore, have some fun.